Hey guys, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. My name is TJ. I'm here with Dan, and we got Nick today because Colin is out gallivanting around with his guitar somewhere, prancing through the streets of Philadelphia, one would presume. How you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, I think Colin definitely prances while he's playing. Just like what are they called back in the day? Like Canterbury Tales times. What are those guys called?
It's like
it's on the tip
like
of
the
my
Pied
tongue.
Piper, you know.
well,
Well, he looks like
that's
he
one thing.
sort of looks like he might want children to follow him with that mustache and hair combo.
That hair
Yeah.
is just flowing in the breeze.
Yeah, he's a Pied Piper for people that are scared of pedophiles. That's what Colin is. The way he looks. Not that he has any of those tendencies. I'm doing good. I'm wearing my first Giants gear, I think, ever on this pod, and I think this is the first time anyone is. So I think that's an indicator of where we're at. This is the first time I in probably like 5 years I'm actually like excited about what this team is doing. Call it a coincidence. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have a black Giants hat that says black on black. It says Giants. You can't read it, but that's for a reason because I've been in mourning the past few years. Nick, how are you? Good to have you back, man. Thanks for being on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I mean, obviously, this is like the first time you felt like the Giants made the right decision, right? You know, kind of, TJ, you and I were talking. It felt like we were going to do the halfway thing, you know, as they call half pregnant, right? We were going to like let Gettleman go, and then we were going to straddle this nebulous situation where we were going to bring back Judge and Jones. And I'm just thankful that at least we've done the right thing so far, but definitely glad to be here.
So far, yeah.
I mean, you know, looking back, you basically, this is what we all wanted. We basically couldn't be in a better position as a fan right now. The dumpster fire's over, hopefully, and, you know, it's only someone else's job to screw up now. So hopefully that doesn't
we just got to
happen.
trust in the Mara family to select the right GM.
I'm trusting the Tisch family, which I did find out that John Mara, Chris Mara, and Steve Tisch are the guys doing the interviews. So
Tisch is even interviewing? I didn't think he had time for that.
You know, I think that was part of the reason why Judge was gone, from what I was hearing, is that Tisch kind of came in and didn't want it to be left to the next GM to make the decision. They just wanted to give the new guy a fresh start. I think whoever they brought in was probably going to fire him anyway. So good riddance. You know, I don't think Joe Judge is a bad guy, but I don't think he's ready to be a head coach in the NFL.
Do you? I know you guys probably hashed it out a little bit already, but do you think that his fate was already sealed going into those last week or two? Because, I mean, I personally was speechless with again, I'm certain you've discussed it, but the back-to-back quarterback sneaks inside our own 5 or whatever. I just think that if I were, you know, a boss, I would have walked down on the field and fired him spot on there. But I just can't tell if he was already kind of like dead man walking at that point, or if he was legitimately like still had hope.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think after all that, it was probably 50-50. And I think it probably had to do with the players. I think that at some point they talked to the players and their opinions on Joe Judge, like, candidly. And, you know, all the leaks that came out from Glazer were that he lost a lot of the locker room. And TJ and I were joking about the only players that supported him were players that don't belong in the NFL and are on the roster because we're inept. But I think a combination of that and someone like sticking their head up in the air and like reading the environment around the team, maybe that was Tisch just being like, everyone on earth says you have to get rid of this guy. It's going to be an absolute disaster if you don't, and no one's going to come to games, and we're going to lose a ton of money if we bring him back and do this half measure. That's my theory, but who knows?
I think there were kind of 3 things, and I think one was that presser. I think after watching that, you kind of had a different idea that maybe this guy was kind of back into a corner, and kind of the bravado he had didn't really exist. It was just kind of manufactured. And then second, I think those 2 QB sneaks, I just call them kneel downs in the end zone, because essentially that's what that is, or, you know, in towards the end zone, not in the end zone. And then thirdly, I think was the fan turnout during that Washington game, which was abysmal. So I think those 3 things combined, plus the pressure from the fans, plus Steve Tisch coming in, whether or not if Tisch got involved, if Mara would have fired him or let the next GM do it, I don't know. But that's my feeling. And I think after that Washington game, I think he knew he was kind of on his way out.
Maybe. But also the thing that struck me as odd was like the whole interview schedule. Everything was very like misreported when he came in like that Monday after, and they're like, oh, he's talking to Mara now, and there's like, oh, he's also talking later, and then oh, there's another meeting on Tuesday. I feel like Mara didn't have a clear idea what he was going to do until the next day when he was fired ultimately. But
what is Judge after that? I mean, not that you want to talk too much about a guy who's going to get thrown on the scrap heap, but what is he after this? I mean, I know he's young and there's a lot of like potential. They still got the Belichick ties and Patriot lore, but is he a guy that you think will ever come back as a head coach in the NFL? Not definitely not the Giants, but somewhere.
No, I don't see it. I mean, I think he could be a coordinator. I think he's probably going to be relegated to like a college team for a couple of years before he makes his way back to the NFL as presumably a special teams coordinator or something of that nature. But I think just the taste is so bad in everybody's mouth, and anyone who's been paying attention to what's been going on with this team and specifically with him and how he acts on his pressers and with his players, it's just not someone I think you want to take a chance on necessarily, unless, you know, the Patriots want to bring him back next year, which is totally feasible. I could think, right?
Yeah, I agree. Same thing. College is probably the best bet for him. I don't think Belichick needs to bring him back, but maybe he can come back in some sort of consulting capacity or something like that. Yeah, I do think he's probably good at some things, but I don't think he has head coaching in him. When you see good head coaches, there is like an immediate like personability to them or way they connect with players. And from everything I've read and everything I could tell from how he is, I feel like he's very standoffish and sort of talks down to players and doesn't treat them as equals as a lot of, I think, really successful coaches do. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's indicative of kind of the first head coaching go around, which is something the Giants have done a few times in the last few rounds of hires. So, I mean, let me do my I never did my intro, which I have to get over with, you know, obviously. So you guys got to follow Big Blue United on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow our new pod-specific Instagram at BBU Podboys on Twitter, which I think we've been offering some spicy takes out there if you're into that sort of thing.
That's good.
And, you know, don't forget to download that DraftKings app. Sports betting is legal in New York now, so no excuses. Let's do it. Cool. So, I mean, just if we want to just go into the obvious thing to talk about, which is the vacancy of Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman, GM head coaching positions, I sort of think that these two things are kind of tied together. So I don't really know if we need to go out and have two separate conversations about it. But there's been a lot of names out there. The Giants have interviewed a lot of people for the GM position. Who do you guys like? You know, if you were John Mara, and who would you hire, and why, Nick?
So the obvious answer is the Buffalo guys. Schoen, I think, is that how you pronounce it? Shane. And, you know, I think presumably you're going to get Daboll with him. You know, I presume they're going to be a package deal. I think that's the favorite there just because they've had a lot of success in Buffalo with some of their free agent moves, trades, their drafting. You know, their offense has obviously been unbelievably dynamic. So I would love to see what you could do with that. You know, if you miss out on that, I don't know if we're going to be patient because who knows how long the Bills are going to go in the playoffs, because I think that's got to be a factor in some of these guys' decision making, because you don't want to be kind of, you know, the last man standing without a GM or a coach here. So I don't know. I mean, it just depends on how attractive GMs view our situation. You know, I saw Mayock just got let go in Las Vegas. I mean, is that a more attractive position than ours? Just because of, you know, that's a playoff team. They've got Carr as a franchise quarterback. Are we better than them? I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. It's like you couldn't get two more different franchises than the Raiders and ownership. You know, both problematic owners, but sure, on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I guess that probably what comes down to it for a lot of the GMs is ownership, their involvement, and the latitude they're willing to give the GM. But yeah, I love the dudes in the Bills, especially if they come as a package. But recently I've gotten pretty sweet on Adam Peters from San Francisco. Just I've always loved that system for however long it's been in place. But coming up with Shanahan, providing players for such a creative and versatile offensive scheme, and drafting well the past few years. Peters apparently is a guy as an assistant GM that really runs the show, and John Lynch is more of a figurehead, is what I've read. Sort of just like the guy that's out there talking, more representing more like a president kind of role. Whereas Peters is running the draft and putting the players that we see on the field. And again, with him, I think there's a sort of a trending thing going on with Mike McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for the 49ers. I think everyone's seeing like the videos that are popping up of him now and his sort of interesting press conferences, but he's like the number one like football geek. He's responsible for a lot of the play design that you see on the 49ers. And while Shanahan calls the plays, I think he's an interesting guy to bring into the fold. I think all of us are on the same page as far as like offensive minded head coaches and dragging the Giants into the modern NFL. So I really like him. He's probably my number one choice, but there's a few other guys in here that I like a lot too. I mean, everything is like 1,000 times bonus compared to where we were before. So
yeah,
I'm so happy right now.
Yeah, it's funny, in comparison, you read a lot of these names, maybe some of them pop out to you more than others, but it's like really anybody other than Gettleman is great. But again, you don't want to, make a mistake here and have to start over again. But I will have to go with Nick as my first choice to be Shane and Dable, just because if you just look at Buffalo, I mean, when Beanie came in, he was in 2017, and then Shane came in 2018. The Buffalo Bills hadn't made the playoffs since 1999, and then they've made 4 playoff appearances, won 3 games so far this year. And I like, Dable's offense is awesome. I think Josh Allen is definitely a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, but I think in terms of their skill set, I think they're kind of similar. Daniel Jones is not as good, but he can throw the ball. He can move around. He's not as big or athletic as
I think
Josh
his draft
Allen,
comp was mini Josh Allen.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if Dable can sort of bring a similar system in that plays to Jones's strengths, I think that's a positive. I mean, we'll talk about where we think the Giants should go with the quarterback position later. But to me, they're 3rd in points per game this year, 5th in yards per game this year. The Giants, are the 31st and basically everything. So for 2 straight years. So just in terms of looking at the numbers and how these guys stack up, I just like what I see there. And since Nick already talked about him, I'll just mention that I also really like Ryan Poles from Kansas City, who's only 36 years old, jumped up through the ranks super fast. I mean, we've all seen how good that Kansas City roster is. And, he could get paired with Bieniemy. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
I know he doesn't call the plays out there, but I believe that he could be a good head coach. And I do kind of like, bringing these pairings in together, guys who are familiar with each other already, not having to kind of work against each other in philosophy, kind of taking the organization and making it more streamlined and together. I think that's a real big positive for this team. I think that's something that I've read has been missing over the years. So,
and I think that's crucially important with the roster that we have and the big questions we have with Daniel Jones and Saquon and the cap and the salary cap where we're at. We have to make decisions on players that are making a lot of money, and having 2 guys that are on the same page right off the bat, hopefully we'll be decisive and not drag along these guys and can make some wholesale changes quickly, and also take charge of all the the family aspect of the front office and either get rid of those guys or have them fall in line. Yeah, totally agree.
I like the guy. I'm interested to hear a little bit more about I don't know if you pronounce it Joe Hortiz. He's the Ravens. Yeah. He's got a Ravens background. And TJ, I know you have an affinity for the Ravens a little bit, beneath there. I just think they're another team that always has quality players. They just constantly have the right kind of guys there. They're competitive every year. That's the kind of guy I want running the ship here, because if you're going to miss on the draft, then go get it in free agency. If you're going to miss there, you're just building a quality atmosphere, cultivating a winning kind of a winning way.
The things you can see as opposed to the things you can't is what you're trying to say. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Ravens have a perpetually good roster. They're always a fun team. They're always in contention. And I know I was reading that, Mara is like kind of enamored with the front office in Baltimore. So I could see that happening too. And, I think another name to throw out there that isn't necessarily tied to a GM candidate is Brian Flores, who, actually was with Patrick Graham, which I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys think Patrick Graham should come back? Because I think that if Flores became coach, that would be something that would be up there. And I would be okay with it. I think the defense has been good. Or would you just rather just start clean, spanking new, nobody back from the last regime at all, Nick?
I'm okay to bring him back. Oh, sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm okay to keep him. I mean, I don't think the defense has been historically bad like the offense has. So I mean, if a head coach that we really want to invest in says that I'd like to keep him here, I think he's a cornerstone of the way I want to operate, then by all means, I mean, I have no qualms about that.
Yeah, same. I think we all sort of feel like Graham got the short end of the stick this past couple of years, doing a lot with a little. Even though we spent a lot and have a lot of high quality players on the defense, they're playing defense so much and staying in a lot of games they had no right to. But ultimately, it's up to whoever they bring in, the GM and the head coach. If those guys give it the seal of approval, then totally fine with it. But if they want to get rid of him, also fine with it. It's nothing we have is sacred in this roster or in the building. I know I don't have an affinity for practically anyone in the organization right now. So, and I do think that Patrick Graham will get set up in the NFL somewhere else because he is talented and has demonstrated proficiency in his job, unlike some other people that were involved with the Giants.
Is Harbaugh not coming out, do you think, or do you think he's kind of playing coy for another position? Because I know this is like a polarizing take on whether he's going to be good again in the NFL, but I personally would take him in a heartbeat if he would come coach.
I saw a tweet come out. I forgot who had it. It was probably shared by a bunch of people, but I saw that it was probably a rumor level kind of thing, but that he is keen on either the Bears or the Giants.
Yeah.
And I think if there's any truth to that, I feel like Merrill will override the whole thing about the GM choosing his head coach and be like, no, you're working with. I don't know. What do you think, TJ? I personally, obviously a good coach, but I only if that's if we hire a good GM or someone that I believe in that level, if they go that way, I'll go that way. But I'd like to see someone fresh, someone younger, someone that's in the NFL right now.
I'm with you too. I mean, I know Harbaugh's a good coach. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's had a lot of success in college. I don't like his demeanor, and I don't like his face. That being said, He is a really good coach. But I don't know, man. I don't want to look at him on the sidelines. I want someone young. I want someone dynamic. I want someone who has something to prove. I don't know. It's just tough for me on that situation. If he became the coach, I would probably be happy about it because he's a great coach. But at the same time, I really just want to see somebody fresh, a different perspective, a different offensive mindset,
just a
different.
total 180 from where we are. And
yeah. I think he has some of those hard ass sort of qualities that Judge was pretending to have, and I just can't listen to that anymore.
The khakis.
Yeah.
You wouldn't consider giving any of our draft capital up for a coach, would you?
No. Never. I think that's a silly thing to do, honestly. I know there's been Sean Payton talk out there about that, but I don't think the Giants should really trade any of their draft capital unless there's some very specific situations, mostly involving, from what I've been reading, about getting a quarterback. I'm not a person to trade draft capital for a coach. I don't think it's worth it. I think there's people out there that are hungry and would be good at the job.
Yeah, that's fair.
I agree.
I mean, you guys want to jump into talking about the quarterback a little bit? So I've been just reading all this, Russell Wilson stuff, and I'm confused about it. I just don't think that the trade makes sense if you have to look at what he would go for, which is basically, if we look at the Stafford deal from last year, it was 2 firsts, a third, and their starting quarterback and Goff. So you're presumably trading either 2 first-round picks this year, another day 2 pick, Daniel Jones, or a first this year and a first next year, for someone who's 33 years old. And I know that the argument is that quarterbacks have more longevity now, but I think that's really just people being blinded by how the amazing story behind Tom Brady and how he's made it this far. I don't think that's the case for everybody. Big Ben didn't make it that far. He didn't make it half that far. I'm glad he's out of the league. I was sick of watching him dink and dunk the last few games. I had to sit through that horrible Pittsburgh game and watch him suck it up the whole time. I just don't want to end up with the short end of the stick on a trade that really could fundamentally change the way your franchise is, more so than even the Saquon Barkley pick did for all this time. And the only argument that people want to make is, quarterback's most important position. He's an upgrade, blah, blah, blah. If he's an upgrade, why aren't the Seahawks in the playoffs? They're a better team than the Giants. They only won 3 more games than they did, and they're not in the playoffs. Russell Wilson didn't throw for over 250 yards in 8 of his 14 starts this year. So I know he was a little banged up, but I don't see the value there with what you're getting for it. And I would rather go a different direction. Dan, do you have any feelings about the Russell Wilson deal that people have been talking about? Or?
Yeah, of course. And I think we should point out, I know we have a lot of listeners that really aspire to the levels of podcasting that we do. TJ's opaquely referencing a Twitter fight he picked with essentially our boss, Ian, on the Big Blue United proper handle. We're a young upstart, the Big Blue United Pod Boys, and we're trying to pick some fights with some big dogs. So TJ had it out with Ian at Big Blue United regarding this. And, I agree with Ian's position, which is essentially if you're not set at quarterback, that's number one priority always until you have that franchise quarterback, that elite talent. You find your Joe Burrow, your guy you're going to ride for the next 10 years in the draft. You keep taking quarterback number one until you get that or trading for it. With that said, I love Russell Wilson, and I think he would be an immense upgrade. But if you're making the comparisons to Tom Brady or other quarterbacks that played into their 40s, totally different quarterbacks. Tom Brady didn't get hit for 6 years behind that offensive line. He was just standing there like a statue. Russ is out there scrambling, running like crazy, getting leveled behind some of the worst offensive lines we've seen. Not to say that I think he can't still be great and isn't still great. But mortgaging these 2 super high first round picks or a combination thereof. And I think the situation we're in, my top choice is keeping Daniel Jones, not extending him, bringing in a decent backup and building the team around him. If say with the 49ers, what's the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Daniel Jones? It's not much.
If a second round pick probably that you'd have to trade. That's about it.
Yeah. But I'm not saying I want Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm talking about skills straight up.
Sure.
You build a good team around him, a good defense, a good offensive line. Then you can either see what Daniel Jones can do or get a good quarterback out of the draft next year, or make a trade where you don't have to mortgage your whole future. I mean, if it was to happen and we were to trade our 2 first rounders, hopefully we take offensive linemen with the next 3 picks and be jumping out of my skin excited for the next season and watch Russell Wilson as a quarterback, because that'd be dope. But if I had the choice, I wouldn't do it.
I mean, what a year though to not have quarterbacks in the draft. That's the thing that just keeps running through my mind. Yeah. Every year, if you look back, most every year there's at least one, and it might still happen. There's always the workout warriors that come up in the combine and everything. So maybe somebody will come up and whether it's the kid from Ole Miss or Liberty or wherever, but I just don't think we're a quarterback away. You know what I mean?
No,
I'm not giving up 2 first round picks where I can get potential blue chip guys at positions for Russell Wilson or Desean Watson or insert NFL vet. You know what I mean? Aaron Rodgers. I don't know, whoever. I'm going to take a look at what we have there. Maybe we fall in love with one of these guys and we take them at 5 or 7. But whatever we do, it's bolstering the trenches. What Gettleman was supposed to do. We want to have guys that we can build around so that way when we do have a quarterback, he's safe. He's got an ability to stand up tall and make throws. And, whatever we do, there has to be better competition. The one thing I was writing down was it has to be a better QB room. We can't be scrambling with Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm and, Davis Webb and the litany of quarterbacks we've had over the last couple of years you have to have a better room there where guys go in and it's competitive. We just haven't had it.
I totally agree with you, and I do think the Giants should just go out and sign. Of the free agents this year, I think Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota would all be great. And you clearly need somebody, even if they're not going to take Jones's job, which they
would push Daniel Jones.
They're going to push him. They're going to make him better. And Jones has an injury history, so you're going to need somebody to come in. And I know the Giants don't have a ton of money to spend in the offseason, at least right now. We'll see what the cuts are. But I think that backup quarterback is the position that you spend the most money on in the offseason.
Go get Ryan Fitzpatrick or something. A guy that, again, he'll command more money elsewhere.
Yeah. Did you see him at the Bills game with his shirt off? Oh my God, I love that. That's amazing.
He's such a cool dude. But again, I'm not saying him, but like someone like him that's got the propensity to be successful. It's just Mike Glennon is historically bad, and I feel bad for the Bears. They were duped originally, so it's just we just need to go get guys that are going to push him. And if Jones earns it, by all means, let's roll with him in 22. But he's got to earn it, and it can't be against these guys who just have no business being in the NFL.
And he's got to stay on the field. That's number one too. I mean, if we just want to go back to like the draft picks, I mean, you're right, Nick. They have basically two premier picks to get an edge rusher and a premier offensive lineman, or any combination of those offensive linemen, whatever it is. Those positions are super high in the draft. There's no reason to go out and kind of draft anybody or trade those away for a quarterback when you kind of can bring in that kind of second tier dude. And I just want to touch on Desean Watson too. I don't want him on this team. And I don't want someone who's been accused of what he has on the team. And even despite, him being probably someone you could get for cheap and being a gigantic upgrade, I don't think ownership would do it. And I personally wouldn't want to do it either.
Yeah. I just don't want to have mixed feelings going in, going to a season. But I think you're right. I guess we don't totally know who's in the draft this year for quarterbacks. Like, we know that it's a famously, not a good selection, but maybe we can take a shot in the second or third rounds. A lot of the mock drafts I've been running have Malik Willis in the third round, Kenny Pickett second round, excuse me, Malik Willis in the second round and Kenny Pickett in the second round. Coral from Mississippi State, from Ole Miss, had a nasty injury in that bowl game. So who knows what's going to happen to him? A lot of stuff's going to shake out now. But in my mocks, I've been drafting a combination of any offensive tackle and Linderbaum in the first, and then picking someone spicy at a defensive end, or even taking a shot at quarterback in the second. But there's a lot of depth in both positions as far as pass rushers and tackles and interior offensive linemen. So for those things that we really badly need, we're in a good position.
But I just hope we don't find a GM that feels like they need to fix it in this draft, right? Like, if we've got somebody who falls in love with a quarterback prospect or something, have the wherewithal to trade out a little bit, because it'll be great if we can get, maybe we get the kid from Alabama, the offensive lineman, and we find a way to get an edge rusher. But if somebody falls in love with one of these quarterbacks or another, player, it's okay to trade back and get some extra capital, because we're going to be presumably gutting this team to get out of this cap hell situation. I mean, guys like Blake Martinez and Galladay, these guys might not be on the team next year just because they're going to look to just clean slate. I mean, the more draft picks we have, the better off we're going to be to kind of have a team that's built around the new persona of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. You know what? I agree as well. And I think a good point to bring up is if the new regime that comes in, if they do want to draft a quarterback with those first two picks, I'm okay with it. If they evaluate somebody that high, go for it. It's up in the air. I think it's hard to sit here and, after what we've been through, the physical and mental abuse that Dave Gettleman has put us through over the years. But I will blindly put my faith in the new hires for the first year and just let it ride. So
but
let
TJ,
it go.
let me ask you this. So here we are, fast forward to the draft, and we've got another situation. And let's just say we reach on a guy like everybody thought we reached on Daniel Jones. I mean, I just get nervous about doing that, because that's another one where maybe we land Dable and Shane and it's great. and they fall in love with another quarterback prospect, and then they reach, and it's a swing and a miss. I get nervous because you can there's positions you can swing and miss on, and your franchise doesn't get set back years. Quarterback is that position where if you swing and miss, you're in another 3 to 5 year cycle.
I mean, it all depends on the situation, and I think that ultimately savvy GMs will package picks to move around. Yep. Dave Gettleman was not a savvy GM. We're lucky we have 2 first-round picks, to say the least. We're lucky we have 2 first-round picks this year. Hopefully, Tony gets back in the field at all and ever plays a game or a full season. I mean, he's presumably going to be your playmaker because you're going to have to get rid of Shepard. I think Galladay will be back because they just signed him. I think he's probably going to be there for another year. But if these guys, want to pull the trigger on something, I'm going to go with it. And I know that it can set you back a long time. We've seen it with this team. We've had very many bad first-round picks the last few years, and it hasn't helped us at all. I mean, who's your best first-round pick the last few years? Dexter Lawrence? And he's not particularly, I wouldn't say halfway to a Pro Bowl at this point. He's a starter in the NFL.
Hey, Eli Apple's starting on a playoff team.
I saw that. Yeah. I was like watching at work, and I was like, "Is that Eli Apple?"
Is it Eli Apple? Yeah,
Eli Apple.
The Eli Apple.
What was funny that draft? I really wanted Vernon Hargreaves, who got picked, I think, a pick before him on the Bucs, and he also ended up being a bust. Yep. So I don't think anything could have made me happy that year. Really.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. Let me jump in here, guys. The NFL playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is kicking things off with a huge offer. Counting down to Super Bowl 56, new customers can get 56-1 odds on any wildcard team to win their game. Bet just $5 and win $283 in free bets if your team is victorious. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have something to play for this wildcard weekend. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy football contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TPPN this wildcard weekend at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New York, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBO-DICKER, more like it.
Yeah, quick question. Is DraftKings still taking bets on wildcard weekend games right now? Because I would love to play some fat bets on the games that already happened.
I probably should have rephrased it, but listen, they send me the piece of paper and I read it. But I'm assuming that if this promotion,
you're like Ron Burgundy of DraftKings spots.
I'm assuming if this promotion still is in effect, they have another one that's similar to this one for next week. So get in there on divisional playoff weekend. Thanks, Dan, for pointing that out. And I was almost going to say solid ad read after I did it. It's okay.
Small steps.
Listen, I'll show you the dates. The dates right here. It says right here.
It's all good, dude. It's all good. I'm just thinking of like a Back to the Future scenario. That would be sick.
Yeah, I mean, I like really need to download this app and get the free money and just blast it all. It's got to be fun. I mean, I love to gamble, and I'm historically bad at sports gambling. But I think if you're going to give me like a couple free shots to do it at DraftKings, then I probably should go for it.
Yeah,
you'd have to think.
Underdog moneyline parlays all day, every day.
Love parlays. I'll parlay till I die.
Yeah.
Nick and I went to the Saratoga track one time, and he was with a couple of his friends, and they just bet $1 on every horse, every single race. And I was like, how do you win money doing this? He's like, oh, it works. Don't worry. It's like, all right, I mean, I trust you. You know more about this than I do. So
I believe you.
Where that works. That was a fun day. One of Nick's friends got there. Who was it? Washburn? I
think maybe.
He got there super early and saved one of the tables on the track, which I had never sat that close. So that was cool.
Well, he does it.
Awesome.
He does it for Travers and all the big ones. Well, used to before he had kids, but
before he was losing to me in fantasy football finals.
Yeah. David took down Goliath there.
Congrats.
It worked out perfectly because we were closed at work for COVID, so I didn't get paid. So it helped subsidize my week of sitting on my ass not doing anything. Still worth it, though.
Well, it's good too because I don't collect the money from you guys anymore until toward the end because I got into that problem every year where you guys would give it to me in the summer and then I would burn through it all and then I'd be like, oh, I have to come up with $1,500 right now to pay.
That's never a good position to be in when you're the commissioner. You need to put it in escrow.
I know, yeah.
We've been gambling with our pot money this year. It was pretty great. We didn't make any money, but we could have.
Were you buying crypto with the fantasy football pot?
No, we were betting parlays with it. That's what we were doing.
I kind of really like that, though. It's like the final number will be adjusted based upon the return on your investment or whatever your gambling return.
You could be drafting next year from a yacht. DraftKings.
This is like the future right here.
Absolutely.
Starting your fantasy football league and buying very risky investments with it.
Absolutely.
The S coins, if you will.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I don't know if I have too much more to talk about the Giants right now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in limbo. Hopefully we get some answers soon, but I guess you're going to have to wait a couple weeks because presumably they'll hire someone who's in the playoffs right now. Or, if it's a Ravens or something like that, we might hear it sooner. Head coach won't be decided until the GM is. So, I mean, can we talk about how wonderful it was to see the Eagles and Cowboys lose this weekend? Or
it was pretty great. And the Patriots too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, 100%.
Also very sweet. What a beatdown. And a showcase for Dable. Seeing the Cowboys lose in that fashion was extra sweet with that failure to down to get to kill the clock because Dak ran for like an extra split second. Love that. Love watching Stephen A. just have a ball today on whatever it was at First Take. I don't even know what show he's on anymore. Just all good. It's all good. No one in the NFC East is alive. They're just as alive as us. And I don't know. I'm loving it.
Would you rather
McDonald's.
have Jalen Hurts or Daniel Jones?
I don't want either. I don't want pass.
If you had to pick.
If you asked me like a couple weeks ago, I would have said Jalen Hurts, but he did not look good.
I'll take Hurts just because I think he's a little more mobile. Not by much. I think Philly's they're competitive, but none of these teams in the NFC East inspire me as like the clear-cut team, right? I mean, I think everybody was kind of had Washington as a favorite this year, and I know they had injuries and challenges, but I mean, I don't think anybody's a 13 or 14 win team. I mean, we're looking at being a 10, 11 win team to be competitive. So I was happy to see. I mean, I hate Tom Brady though, so I mixed feelings rooting for the Bucks, but I do my hate for Philly supersedes Tom Brady. So I was okay to see that.
I remember when they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and I was like, I don't know what to do right now. It's like I can't watch this game and enjoy it. Yeah. It's like, how am I supposed to enjoy this? Whoever wins is going to be annoying.
I want to circle back to this because you brought up Philly and it made my brain go there. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I saw that Doug Peterson had high odds as the Giants coach. We can't do that, right? That can't be where we're going, right?
I hope not.
I don't know. He won a Super Bowl.
They should be looking to the Eagles for their front office people, not their head coaches. Philly's front office is always competitive, always good, always doing smart things, always outsmarting us.
Yep.
I would take someone from there. Doug Peterson is in the league. He did okay, but I think he was just riding the Andy Reid wave when he came in and didn't show anything particularly unique. I mean, he won the Super Bowl, right? But I don't know.
With Nick Foles at that.
With Nick Foles, yeah.
Just doesn't excite me. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I know he had a tumultuous tenure there in Philly, and you win a Super Bowl, you can't take that away, right? I mean, he did do it, and I don't think he's the guy to guide us back to being competitive. I don't think he is.
That's why I'm talking about this Mike McDaniels guy from San Francisco. He's like a pencil neck geek that went to Yale, never played football. That's like taking Brandon Ayuk in like the second round of your fantasy draft. Just someone all upside and nothing proven. Let's do it. Just wing it.
Yeah, like taking like a special teams coordinator off the.
No, not a special teams. Some guy that does something important.
Someone who's had any level of success or something along those lines. But boy, so let me ask you a question. Mike McCarthy, he's done, right?
Yeah.
That's what scares me about the Doug Peterson thing too. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl, but he can't do jack anymore.
They're saying he's in the mix for the Giants job right now.
Get out of here, man!
Because we wanted to hire him, whatever,
Get out
2 years ago.
Well, you have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you're like, that's why Mike McCarthy, I don't put a lot of stock in him because LaFleur might be a good coach. He might not be a good coach, but you get to go and tell Aaron Rodgers, go throw the ball 28 times and do your thing and we'll win. You know what I mean? Like,
LaFleur's good because he acquiesces to Rodgers. He's like,
Smart.
gives him latitude to be Aaron Rodgers.
He looks like the guy that I want to be the coach of the Giants, like just a young dude on the sideline. That's what I want to see.
You want a hot coach.
A young, sexy man. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Does Jimmy Garoppolo want to be the coach?
You can do it.
That's like the fourth time I've called Jimmy Garoppolo handsome on this podcast.
It's a recurring thing.
Counting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
I want a bearded
what it
coach.
is.
What about a coach with a beard?
Yeah, that would be important. Cool. A young dude with a beard.
Yeah.
Or we go the other way.
Frank Wright.
Yeah. Lovey Smith. Bring back Lovey. He's got that. Did you see him? Have you seen him recently?
Yeah. He looks like he, got out of quarantine and still hasn't done anything about it.
The Bears interview with Lovey Smith. Believe that?
Again?
Really?
I heard are they asked?
Nobody quote me on this stat, but they were saying like the last time they were like remotely competitive was the Lovey Smith years.
Yeah.
And so I think he was like, he had like 6 out of his 8 years were over 10 wins or something like that. So it's just like, why not? Right. Go back to the well.
I mean, that's a team that was always put together well without a quarterback. I mean,
forever.
How do you make a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman at quarterback?
Bite your tongue. Rex Grossman,
Brian Urlacher.
gunslinger.
Grossman.
He's like the Colt McCoy of his time.
I don't remember what year that was, but that was a long time ago. But either way, I remember when they played. Yeah, they played Indianapolis in the Super Bowl, and I was just the game was starting. I was like, "There's no way the Bears win this game." And then Hester ran it back for a touchdown. I believe you won money on that too, Nick. Right?
That was my greatest gambling feat ever. I had first touchdown by Devin Hester, and I think it was like 28-1 or something like that. And
nice.
When you're a college kid in that time and you throw $40 on it, you're feeling good about yourself.
That's amazing.
It's a lot of
my
30
greatest
racks.
Gambling feat was we used to have to go to these websites that were offshore, like in Bermuda or whatever, and you never knew if you were gonna get your money back. But I guess like Blue Gatorade or something on one of those 2000 like 6 or 7 Super Bowls, and it was like 800 to 1 odds, and I made like $800. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those prop bets are always fun.
I love the Gatorade bet.
You
gotta pay attention though. You gotta pay attention.
I had somebody I knew who won on was Katy Perry going to wear pants at all during her performance, and the answer was no, and won some money on that. The prop bets are infinitely more fun than actually betting on the game. I feel like. Can you do prop bet parlays on DraftKings? That's great.
Yeah. Oh,
that's amazing.
You know what? The part I love about the now, and again, I've been gambling for my whole life, right? So I walked out of the womb and I was hitting trifectas, but I do love that you can do these ridiculous parlays on these apps, and you can put like $5 on it, right? So you're not like losing anything major on it, and if you hit it, it's 10,000 to 1. That's what makes it pretty neat.
It's the best. I just sprinkle in like 5 parlays with different variations on the dogs I'm taking, and they're all like $2-3 and $2-3 to win like $80.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah,
why not?
Yep, until you lose like 50 times, but you probably hit it at least once, right?
Yeah, and then you gamble the whole season on that one win. It's awesome.
Just like I do in the casino. As soon as I hit, I put my money back in my pocket, and then I usually lose
Put it in the
rest.
savings account. Yeah.
Lose the rest of it immediately. Nick and I went to a casino. Where did we go? Turning Stone, was it?
Yeah, Turning Stone.
And the first night, we were just winning so much money. Shout out Jim Ayers, our boy, this guy we met who was like a janitor at a college. And it was like 4 of us and him, and we were just cleaning up for like 2 hours, and then the next day we went back, and I don't know about you, but I lost all of my money like almost immediately that I had won.
I like literally, no exaggeration. I mean, everybody was just stuffing their pockets with money at the first night. It was like we walked out. It was 5:30 in the morning, and nobody had any semblance of time. And what was funny, and this is Colin, vintage Colin for you. Colin didn't bet a single hand, just stood behind us for the entire 5 hours while we played blackjack at this table and just loaded money. It was ridiculous.
Colin
I've interrogated that concept.
Bet.
I've asked him many times why he won't gamble. Like, I was like, even if all your boys are there, we're having a great time, why don't you? He's like, I'm just not interested. I'm like, do you have like some sort of philosophical thing against gambling? He's like, no, I just don't care to do it. It's like, all right, man.
Literally, that's exactly right. He'll never tell you the real. There's a real reason, but
he's bad at math.
It'll never
Colin's
get
bad
it
at math. That's the reason.
It?
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll end it there tonight. Thank you guys for listening. Again, guys, please follow us at Big Blue United on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Give us Upstart at BBU Pod Boys with a Z a follow as well. Let us gain some notoriety out there on Twitter and
like following us now is like buying Bitcoin in 2011. Just get in low.
That's right.
Yeah.
Download that DraftKings app, and Nick, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it, man, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.